So this is a pretty cool product. Today we're going to be having a look at a very, very small motherboard. This is an ASUS AT3N7A-I, and what it is, well, why don't we just start by reading off the front of the box. It is Windows 7 ready. It features the Intel Atom processor, and it has the nVidia Ion chipset. So that means that it has full HD 1080p support, which is accelerated by the Ion chipset because the Atom is not powerful enough for that. It also features Bluetooth, something about perfectly suit your digital lifestyle, and let's see, this features, it has the Ion 330. So this is the dual core Atom, Ion 330. It is the dual core Atom, which is the one that it seems most people are more interested in. So the first thing we find inside is a motherboard user guide with a Ion support DVD, rev whatever, DVD inside. Don't use that. Download the latest drivers and utilities off ASUS.com. Here is the I/O shield, and there's a funny label here. So that's the Bluetooth logo right there. So we'll see exactly how they've gone and implemented Bluetooth on this particular motherboard. It includes 2 SATA cables, and that is pretty much it. Now this is one tiny board. I love ITX boards. I think they're just hilarious, you know, because they're so small. And yet they feature, you know, really most of the same functionality of a larger PC. Okay, so here is what we've got. Why don't we actually start with just the basic feature set. So we've got support for DDR2 RAM. Okay, and you can support, I believe it's up to, I better make sure before I say anything stupid, but I believe it should support up to 4 gigs of RAM. Okay, don't quote me on that one. I think it's up to 4 gigs of RAM. Okay, and then we've got a couple of fan headers spread out around the board. We've got 1, 2, 3, including the one that the little tiny CPU fan is attached to. So you can see this probably doesn't give off a whole lot of heat. Our power connectors are in their ideal locations with the 4-pin up at the top left. You definitely don't need an 8-pin for this guy. And then with a 24-pin over here on the right-hand edge. In terms of SATA connectors, now this is something I'm a little bit disappointed in. It's only 3 SATA connectors, so they're using one of the SATA connections from the chipset for eSATA, but I'd really like to see more ITX boards with between 4 and 6 connectors, because otherwise they'd be great for use as like a home server or as a storage server, because they don't use up a whole lot of power and they're plenty fast enough for just storing data on them. You've got 1 PCI slot, so that allows you to add whatever it is you need, and you have 1 USB header here, so that would be for your front USB on your case or for a card reader or for whatever else. Okay, one little niggle I've got here is I hate little tiny fans. I would have rather they put a bigger heatsink on it or put like a wider heatsink on it so that they could put a larger fan, because these little fans tend to be the first thing that dies on anything that they're attached to. So let's have a look at the back of the board. So you got kind of a black-brown sort of PCB. You can see almost all of the traces lead back to that chipset right there, which is the Atom and the, wait, what? Hold on a minute. Just a moment. No, I think the Atom's actually here. I believe that's actually the North Bridge. Although I'm just guessing right now, so why don't we just move on? Yeah, there we go. Okay, so let's have a look at the I/O on the back. So we start with a standard PS2 keyboard port. Then we have 8 USB ports, and given that something like this would typically be deployed in somewhere where you're not going to be plugging in a whole lot to the front, you're just going to put it somewhere, tuck it away, lots of USB ports is very optimal. We've got an HDMI port, then we have 2 digital audio ports, which makes it very well suited for something like a home theater sort of box where all you're really doing is playing back media. You got VGA just to complete the output options right there. You have 1 eSATA. This is your Bluetooth adapter, which I believe is probably just plugged into, okay, it wouldn't surprise me if this is just something that's plugged into like a USB port or something, or maybe it's, oh, you know what, I bet it's running off what would have been your other USB header. Okay, so then we've got gigabit Ethernet and 7.1 audio. Thank you for checking out my quick unboxing of the AT3N7A-I.